25 days, 22 winners, and one podcast. This is Stranded for Victory, and I'm your host, Poody. Today we're joined by the third place finisher, Eve, winner of Stranded in Patagonia. Welcome to the podcast, Eve.
Thank you.
And we're also joined by seventh place finisher and idol hound, Joaquin, winner of All Stranded.
Just call me a whore.
Yeah. So Joaquin, I get. Are you ready to begin?
Yeah, let's do this.
All right. I guess we're going to talk about. We originally just planned to talk to Eve, so I'm going to ask Eve a bunch of questions.
Should I get off?
I'm going to try to scrounge together. There's a lot.
Yeah, I'll get off. It's cool.
No,
don't,
you stay.
Don't leave.
Turd.
Wow.
Off to a good start. All right. So Eve, I guess first I'll say, what was it like coming back to Stranded after several years of not playing in the series?
It was weird. I was really concerned that everything would be different. In fact, when you said, give me your Discord name, I didn't have a Discord name. I didn't know what Discord was. So I thought maybe we'd be playing on Discord or, I thought everything would be completely different. But coming into the PM system, turning into IMs, that was nice. Nice welcome change. In terms of like strategy and all that, I knew that coming in 7 years later, any kind of target that I would have had 7 years ago would have been diminished, if not non-existent. So that was nice to come into. I knew that no one really would be looking at me at all. And you asked me to come back maybe like 2 times, I think. And like the first time I just never got the message until like a year later. And the second time I think I just was busy. So I think coming back now was a good time to come back. Clearly. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I had contacted you for Isolated at least once. And then the other time I was feeling out winners. I've been trying to put together the winners for a while, but I've also kind of known a lot of the winners were either busy or retired or what have you. Mm-hmm. So when this came about, it kind of just all came together. When was the last game you had played before this season?
Cataly had mentioned some kind of Godfather game that I had played. I think that was the last one. I remember being in the basement of the job at 2013, playing that game for like 8 hours. But before that was legit Stranded. So this is the last Survivor game that I ever played, Patagonia.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
See, because I had lumped you in with a lot of the Orgy players because I know you've played there and you know a couple of those guys. But really, you probably were a little bit more disconnected than a lot of them.
Yeah, Orgy just started when I left. Blondes had created a forum for herself and for her friends. And I was invited. I came into it, but I wasn't invited. I wasn't even in it. I was given a link to it by a guy named Diet Green Tea, if you know that guy. And that was maybe a year into the board. But I came from the board before, which I'm pretty sure was called Games That Suck, maybe.
I have a long and sordid history with Games That Suck.
Same here.
So I actually don't remember, because you're one of the players that like I didn't reach out to on Orgy, and I hadn't heard of you from other games, but I did know that you had like won a lot of games and you were pretty good at them. So,
well, thank you.
How did Stranded end up being one of the last games that you played?
So I was like, when I started playing these games in 2002, they were doing them in like AIM chat rooms, and I was 14 years old, and I didn't know what I was doing. And so eventually I started doing them maybe like 2 or 3 a year. And by the time I hit Stranded, I was doing them maybe once a year. I had gotten completely burnt out by the Games That Suck community. And plus, everyone kind of knew who they were going into it. And games were never really closed ID. There was always maybe 1 or 2 people who knew who the other person was, and they would just wreck the game or wreck their own game, respectively. So when I heard about Stranded, I got a really good review from somebody about it. I forget who I was talking to. Somebody from Games That Suck. But they said essentially that it was not open ID at all, that you have like a whole system in check that people can't really check on who's playing with who. That really intrigued me. The fact that I came back to like almost like a fans versus favorite season was a fun little irony in itself, and that I was trying to avoid that, but worked out for me there. And I just and it being my last game, I figured I started getting night jobs, and so I really couldn't play challenges or vote or do any of that or really be active in games anymore. So having a win under my belt, and such a win. I don't know if anyone remembers it. I barely remember it. But I felt really good about it and was like, okay, I'm done. I'm not playing these things ever again. I'm not going to end on a really high note.
I think in your season, it's hard because, you know, the older I get, the less memory I have of the earlier seasons as we get more and more of these things.
That's fair. That's fair.
I do remember it was a very strategic season, and I know that the new players kind of dominated, which usually when we do like those, like a fans versus favorites, normally we do like second chance versus favorites. So it kind of evens the play. And when I do pick like new players or the fans, quote unquote, it's usually like experienced players that are new to Stranded. So you fit that bill pretty well. So that's how I try to balance it, where you know, it's not too skewed in the favorites direction. But I do remember you dominating that season.
Thank you.
Especially towards the end, where it was like a really obvious win.
Oh yeah. Well, the votes, I think this was like the first time you ever did a live finale like vote. The ones before mine, from what I remember, were all they would vote and that was it. But everyone had a day to change their vote for the first time, and I think that I had the win with 7 votes initially, and it moved down to 4 over the course of a day. That's
probably right.
I don't think I had it. Yeah.
Usually, the newer seasons we definitely give like a lot more final tribal and voting time.
Oh, it's great. I'm sure.
We try to spread it over a weekend, which is not the most fun for the finalists, but for watching, it's fun. I guess let's bring in Walk at this point. You still there, Walk?
Yeah, I'm here.
Good.
I guess I can also. Looks like Andy might have joined us. How appropriate.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, he saw us too, and I'm just gonna let myself in there. Don't worry.
I'll give him a speaking role just in case he wants to chime in at any point. So, Walk, your game, I would say, was one of the definitive games of the merge. I feel like you and along with a few others really dictated how that merge went. How was that playing for you? Because you had said you were playing more for fun this time.
Yeah, I definitely was. I mean, I can't. Whenever my play style, I've never like Melinda talks about like the GOAT strategy of like just try to get to the end of the bunch of like the way I, regardless of like the style, I always tend to set myself. If I make the end, I will win. It's just a matter of actually getting there. And it happened to be that way this time. A couple votes on the merge, I was kind of fucked, but it was fun. Kind of just like I wasn't a troll, but it was like my mere presence was pissing people off that I wasn't out yet. So that was kind of
actually Eve and Walk. You kind of played polar opposite games. Where I would say Eve, you kind of played a traditional under the radar game. I don't think by choice, actually.
Not at all. Not at all.
I think you kind of got pigeonholed there.
You talk about how me and Jeff were frustrated at the merge in some older podcasts about how we're used to making moves, but not able to make moves and how frustrating that is. Just imagine being the target at more than half of the tribals after the merge, and then just having to come back from that and never being able to give it a name, because if you gave out that name would target you and then you'd just be out.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised actually, because I thought being the target at so many tribal councils would benefit you going into the final. I really thought that you had a better shot than what you actually had. I think a lot of the jurors shut you out of the conversation, just like they did in the game. Do you know why that is, or you think it was just circumstance?
So it's always, when you go into a jury, there's always the first person makes their mark and kind of sets the tone for the rest of the jury in the game. Val didn't know me. Jeff kind of gave up on me, listening to my allies and not really listening to me and our conversations that we had. I knew that my game would always come down to the final tribal council and really piecing together the small things that I said to folks in conversations, just so they know that I was A, telling the truth, and B, working hard the entire time. And I feel like I got really close to some jurors' votes at the very end. In the finale, I saw that that Kim might have changed her vote. Penner might have changed his vote. Jeff might have changed his vote. That would have been a 4-4-3. I assume that the 3 votes would have had to change. And then those 3 people would have to vote between me and Stephanie. I'm not sure how Walk, Cat, or Cass would have voted. Well, Cat would have never voted for me, but maybe Walk and Cass would. So there's a weird chance in some alternate universe that I, for some ungodly reason, won this game. But I worked really hard. I'm sorry that I wasn't able to convince anybody else that I had done the same thing. I think that the Scarlet Letter had been posted on me at the very beginning, and there was no way that I was ever going to take that off of me, even if reality said that I didn't really deserve it. And I'm trying to figure out why I got it. And I said in the final tribal council that it was mostly because of I was one of two people who had voted the wrong way during any of the tribal councils and actually survived to the merge. I feel like that was like a big factor.
So we're now joined by winner of Stranded with Rivals, right? Yeah.
I think that's it, yeah.
Melinda, what place did you finish this season? 10th?
11th, right in the middle.
Okay, it's close. So to Eve's point, I know Melinda was rooting for you hard in the jury.
Thank you.
Walk, why, how did you view Eve? Was it just she just like a non-entity to you?
Well, I mean, I know my perspective on the jury is like a little different. Like I would have, and I've told Eve this, I would have voted for Eve over Steph like 10 out of 10 days. Just because Steph and I never felt like I got close to her at all. And she just felt like really boring to me. And since I was going into this for fun, I didn't want to vote for somebody who was boring. And Eve was the opposite of boring.
Aww.
Sure. Yeah. You and Russ were both like bullshit heads. And I love that.
The Chicago Alliance, man.
I was going to say, all the Chicago people are here right now currently.
Yeah. But I mean, at least for me, how I think it was perceived that Eve did, it felt like you never like fully took like your fate in your own hands. It never felt like I never got that thought process of, okay, this is the way, my plan for how I'm going to win, and this is how I'm going to go for it. It felt kind of like you were floating onto other people's plans, which is like a fine strategy. But I think a lot of the jury wasn't a huge fan of that kind of game.
That's fair.
Whereas they felt, for me, like I felt like Steph played a very similar kind of game, but I think the others probably felt like that it was like a more deliberate act on her part, but I never really got that from her. Me being working with Russ since like basically the beginning, I like knew exactly what Russ was trying to do the whole time, and so like it was very easy for me.
I felt like all three of them played like the same game. I mean, like I can't say that one of them had a better strategic game than the other. Now, I don't know. So that's why for me at the end, it just kind of came down to like, who do I like the most? Because you're all decent, obviously capable players. So I was just kind of looking to see how were people responding. And I really liked a lot of Russell's responses. So I was kind of close to voting for him. But he did make some kind of stupid mistakes in terms of it's cool to be an asshole, but he was kind of an asshole to some of the people on the jury. So I was like, that was kind of stupid move.
Okay, I'm glad I'm not the only one. Like people were looking at me like I was crazy during that reunion podcast.
I didn't have a problem with it, like because he didn't insult me at all. But I'm like, okay, that just wasn't a super tactful way of saying what you said. So for me, yeah, I don't know. But I loved Russell. I loved a lot of things Russell said, but
I've heard from some other people who have played with Russell, either in this game or in other games, that in general, if Russ likes you, that you don't have any problems with him, but that if you're not aligned with him, like you abhor him.
Interesting.
It's interesting because Walk, you were inspired by one of my all-star wins as a returning winner and someone who's insane like you are, how to play over the top. And actually in that game, I played with Russell. And he was one of the people who was in the threat alliance in that game, but I ended up having to cut him early because he was acting against it. So I think that's interesting because in the end, he really didn't have plans to take you with him. He was always kind of vying for, as he would say, his two goats, which ended up being a joke. But
rude.
I mean, to be fair, I never had any plan, at least at the beginning of the merge, I had no intentions of going with End. I didn't view him as a threat at all. I only kind of felt that way. Like after Penner was voted out and I was fucked, I basically was like, well, I'm only getting to the end if for some reason Russ thinks that he can beat me or if I immunity whore myself. Like once I was backed into a corner, I was fine with it. But I originally was not intending to go to that end either.
I guess I shouldn't have been surprised, but I was surprised at how many of the winners really tried to play an under the radar game, especially given like their reputation. I'm not sure why Penner or even Cassandra or some of these players were really trying to play hard under the radar. And at some point it almost became a joke of like everyone not wanting to throw out a target because they didn't want it to fall back on them. I guess that could have been a result of like everyone being so connected. They were afraid it would get out. And to be fair,
it was more that, I think. I don't think it was people were trying to set themselves up so that way they could keep all of their like 80 other alliances all intact. That's why like the first 4 votes were all unanimous.
Yeah, I mean, and to be fair, like, you know, I talked to you a lot about like what I think you might have done wrong or whatever with that strategy, but at the same time, every situation's different. So, you know, if you weren't ever going to have people play along with signing on to the Threat Alliance, like it was never going to happen. So
yeah, I mean, and I'd written that in my confession. It was hard because I've never played that strategy before, and so going in and trying to pull off something totally new in an all-winner season is probably doomed from the start. Because I have not played as many games as like a lot of other people on the season. This was like my 6th game ever. Poody, I admitted the same. Like I was like, I have to go for this because this is the only chance I have, and if I don't, I'm fucked.
Well, I don't think it was bad because I think so many other people were not doing that strategy that being the outlier might have worked, you know. And I mean, you made top 7, so it's not like you weren't even close, you know.
Yeah, I was listening to all the other podcasts. Y'all thought I was going to be the fucking first boot.
I did. I really thought, you know, no one's going to put up with this shit this season. After coming off of the win, I thought we're going to have a lot more people targeting you, whereas everyone seemed to want to work with you, at least in the beginning. I guess let's talk to Melinda a little bit since we haven't spoken to you yet. Melinda, your game was a little all over the place. I'd say
all over the place.
Yeah, I think, you know, you started off like super strong, and you'd probably have seen that you were like high in our estimation of who we thought would win. And then I think slowly you started to lose that, particularly around the merge. Was that just a matter of knowing too many people and that kind of fucking up your strategy, or was something else going on?
I think it was a combination of being in quarantine and kind of, I think, going a little bit too overboard. Like game ended up being like on my mind way too much. And I don't know, I think I just went a little crazy. Like I got kind of bored and all kind of went downhill. It really, it was all fine until when I had my extra vote and decided last minute, okay, maybe I should try and make a move at Russell. I could have just gone along with that plan as was, and I think I probably would have been fine had I just gone with the party line and put it out Christina and just let Levita get those 2 votes and just regroup from there. Because I think at that point I had pretty strong relationships with enough people that I was not going to be in any trouble. That was probably where the game started to go south.
Yeah, because Joaquin, you had a big issue with Melinda at that trouble. I think you had tried to work with him and the plans leaked a few times.
Yeah, it was a whole thing where I had been trying to work with Melinda a lot in the beginning just because I thought all the Maloney stuff was fucking hilarious in Ostranded. Mm-hmm. And I like working with entertaining people. And so I had wanted to for a while. And then the merge hit. And at the beginning of the merge, Melinda was fine. And then I was like trying to put in a lot of effort with Penner. I mean, obviously not well, but it became like very obvious that Penner was like basically just going to go out on a limb and do whatever to keep Melinda there, which like didn't work for me because I thought there was like no chance. Like that was like, no, that was never happening. And then Penner started like leaking tons of stuff to Melinda. Melinda, you did something too where you like were telling people about like our alliance with Courtney and Levita from the beginning. And I got super sketched out.
I wasn't telling people about that. No, wait. I never told anyone that.
You didn't? Or who? Somebody did. Or somebody blamed it. I don't know. The vote steal was like the ultimate thing where like I basically told Penner, Cass, and Cataly, because those were the 3 people I had identified as threats, which was probably right, but I didn't do it in the right way. And then Penner told Melinda, and then I think Melinda's mistake was just assuming that I hadn't told Cataly, or was your relationship with Cataly was tighter than mine.
I didn't expect Cataly to.
Yeah, but me and Cataly were extremely close. And so she told me, and I was like, okay, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to blow up at Penner and say that Melinda is blowing up at me and mad that I didn't tell her. And then he's going to doubt me, but I'm going to say it has to be you because how else would I hear from Melinda? And he's going to double check with you and kind of blow that up in your face. And then it all kind of just went to hell.
I have no idea what you guys are talking about. I'm lost.
Which ended up screwing all of the big threats games. Thanks a lot, Joaquin.
It was awesome.
Yeah, you weren't a big threat like at that time. So I didn't care. Penner was fucking pissing me off.
I think it's funny that the level of strategy this season had to have been exhausting for you guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
The hardest part about it is that can strategize as much as you want, but you're guessing because you don't know what kind of relationships are out there. You don't know how close people are. So you're literally trying to guess what's the best thing to do. Like that's why the under the radar strategy is like a win 9 times out of 10. And that's, I think, why Stephanie ended up winning, is because Stephanie was able to just not do a whole lot and not get her hands dirty. Well, all the rest of us just imploded.
Eve, what are your thoughts? Because you probably, I guess you played the closest with Stephanie, being with Russ and Steph in that group. Did you feel a part of that alliance? Did you have like a close relationship with them?
Which alliance?
Russ and Stephanie, yeah.
Oh, that was never, Russ and Stephanie was never real for me until the Final Four. I had approached Stephanie and Levita around when the double vote had hit, because of the big rumor that all the threats were getting together. So I was obviously not a threat. And I wanted to work with the people who also were not deemed threats. At the time, Levita, I don't think was deemed a threat, or I just wasn't aware enough to know that she was. And we just made a plan to keep our names out of the vote. And if we heard anything about each other, we would say something. And I don't think either of them were ever targeted in the double vote, but that was the beginning of my relationship with Stephanie. And then toward the end, it was more of a me and Russell versus whoever else was left. Maybe Kim, maybe Stephanie, whoever won immunity essentially would have been the final three with us. It would have, between Kim and Stephanie. And if we had our choice, I'm pretty sure that we would both have chosen Kim to the end with us, just because more votes would have been split with Kim. I think that Kim or Russell still would have won over me, but yeah.
I would think, and this is probably more a question for Wak, the originator of the Threat Alliance. How did you decide who was and who wasn't a threat? Because I mean, obviously there are the people like Penner and Cataly who everyone knows is a threat, and they come in with this reputation. But then there was Melinda, and then Levita, and then some of like the people who were in between threat status. How did you decide who you thought would be in it? Was it just whoever would agree to do it, or?
Yeah, well, I mean, in my head, the 3 people that had to be there were Penner, Cass, and Cataly. Just because, well, I mean, it's particularly Cataly and Penner came in with big reputations as being outspoken and being that I was particularly over the top. Even if someone's a huge threat, if they're like under the radar, that doesn't work as well. Right. So they were less under the radar. And Cass, I mean, through my talking with like Tammy and Cochran and all that, I knew was largely driving a lot of things on the original Fenrir tribe.
Absolutely.
And since I knew that those people were all together, I was like, okay, well, it makes sense. I also know her a little bit from hosting Revenge so much. Like, I know she's very rational. And so I know that, like, as if that was the best option, she would go. From then on, we probably would have needed a 5th. I wasn't sure at that point, and it didn't last long enough to get to that. But honestly, Levita probably would have been a good deal, but me and her had our eyes on each other since like day 1. So,
right. I guess I'll ask Melinda. You did not know a whole lot of these people going in, outside of like the people from Orgy and maybe some of the stranded people from newer seasons that you had like kind of sort of played with or knew them from the Discord. How did you come to the conclusion of like who was a good player or a good threat? Because like obviously you hadn't seen Cassandra play. So what in your mind, did you view her as one of the bigger threats, or how did you determine threat
I don't know. I think I don't think I like ever thought anyone was. I was not thinking about who was going to be a threat to beat at the end at that point. Like it's just too early to think about. For me, I was just more thinking about trying to get people out that are not super close to me and were close to other people. I don't know. Okay. If I would say anyone. Like I didn't think I wasn't more or less threatened by any of them, really.
I guess this is a general question for everyone. Was there someone that you thought after the game was playing a lot better than you had seen in the game?
Melinda, I would actually say. I mean, well, I thought Melinda was like your perception jury wise before like the whole Cataly Penner thing was that like a lot of the stray voting and trolling and stuff was like rubbing people the wrong way. So I didn't really think of Melinda as a huge threat or anything. But like looking back at like how many alliances you had set up, I was like pretty impressed.
I honestly think I would have been totally fine had it not been for Cataly in that bomb. Until that point, I was pretty much had a lot of people fooled, I think, about like connections and everything.
Why did you not include Cataly on the Russell vote?
Did I not?
Yeah.
Because I knew she wouldn't go for it.
Okay. Why wouldn't she go for it?
She was really close with Russell.
Yeah, but I think she would have knocked him out if, well, she was trying to knock out Levita, and you were close with Levita. Could you have like done some kind of compromise?
I don't know. Cataly was tough. I had a hard time like reading like
At that point, I think Melinda had gone nuts. To be fair, she was like, at that point, you really seemed like you had exhausted all of your strategic play. Like, I feel like at some point, Melinda, from watching your vlogs and your confessionals, I knew you were becoming more and more exhausted with like all of the sub alliances and keeping everything straight, because I think you were pretty much in the middle of a lot of it. Yeah, I guess let's talk about Russell a little bit in terms of, because everyone at some point had labeled him a goat. Was that activity level or just the way that he spoke to people in general?
It's just he made a lot of just kind of stupid mistakes, like him wasting his idol when Kim S was the boot. I don't know, like he had to win immunity on the other team. He just like he was close to getting voted out the first couple of tribal councils. That's just like the things that counted against him, I guess.
Because I think Russell was such an interesting character. I talked about him a lot in the reunion podcast. I kind of shit all over him. But it was interesting because I think anyone else in any other season, I think people would have probably been rooting for Russell as someone who was like winning out, was kind of controlling an alliance, had a clear path to the end. Yet everyone was rooting against him, including lurkers. So
and though was so obvious. Like that was Final Four was so obvious when it was Joaquin. Joaquin, Levita, and Cataly in the final, and Cass. Like everybody kind of just pegged them. Just had a perception of being likable or better players, like amongst most people. I think that was the general perception, which means those four all had to go 8 through 5.
Yeah,
It was attempted.
So Eve, what did you do? Let me ask you this, because it was clear that you were getting taken to the end. And I mean, obviously, like that's something that you want.
I think it was clear after the Levita vote, yeah.
But it's also like, I mean, you had to know people were not viewing you positively going into that final.
Absolutely.
What did you try to do to change that?
That's a great question. I realized the perspective was off as soon as the vote was against me at the merge, and then I survived it, and everyone was just still not interested in working with me. That made me feel like I was, not playing the best game. And so what I wanted to do was spend a round, just one round, to get my footing, figure out where everybody was and where my best move was going to be. But in that round, I learned that I was being targeted again. And so instead of finding my footing, I had to survive. And so the round after that was me trying to find my footing. Unfortunately, I had to survive. So it was never, and I didn't have any connections outside of Melinda or Cataly. And once the stray Russell votes happened, Cataly was never working with me again. So I had nothing concrete to follow back on. And then Melinda left. I didn't have the connection with anyone outside of Russell and maybe Joaquin a little bit. What did I try to do to fix it? That wasn't on my agenda. My agenda was to survive because I was so closely getting voted out that if I ever concentrated more on making a big move, that was going to be my last round. And I would prefer to make it as far as possible without playing the best winning game than play a wonderful winning game at like the final 8 and lose.
Okay, no, that makes sense. Let me ask you, the final 4, were you ever considering voting out Stephanie over Kim?
Yes. Until Stephanie won immunity, it was always going to be Kim. The plan was every big target, every big threat had a friend. Cassandra had Kim, Joaquin had Russell. I mean, maybe not really, but socially it looked that way. Who else was there? Cataly had Stephanie. Nobody really had me. Maybe Russell had me, but Russell wasn't really a threat. So I guess that makes me a C if everyone's an A and a B. But whatever. My ideal was to get rid of the threats and then get rid of Stephanie, just because I knew, even though I didn't know anybody, I knew that Stephanie had connections to people over the years playing these games. Like people see Stephanie's name and people recognize it. And that was enough for me to deem them a threat. Knowing that Kim had played the game and won the game a season before me and hadn't played since, I knew that was going to be someone whose game was going to be judged more on. Not to say that Stephanie's game was judged on past relationships before the game. I'm sure 100%, close to 100%, it was based on not prior relationships, but the game itself. But I knew that even if it was 1% off, that Kim wouldn't be getting that 1%. 1%.
So what about the decision? What about Kim versus Russell? Was that even a
If it was a final two, I would bring Russell to the end with me if I somehow wanted me to. Is that what you're asking?
Well, I was wondering, in your eyes, was Kim a big threat to win at that point?
Bigger than Russell or myself, yeah.
Okay.
I didn't realize that the jury had kind of been mad at her. I didn't know that. All I knew is that Kim had been with Tammy on the outside at Fenrir and was looking to make a move and was coming to me to make the move. And I'm sure other people too. I would have absolutely worked with Kim to make a move. That's why I was looking to work with Tammy to make a move when we did our swap. And that didn't work out at all. But I feel like if it was Kim instead of Tammy, we would have worked together at that swap easily. And I never really worked with Kim during the merge. I mean, I did, but only superficially with her and Cassandra. I feel like I was able to be a part of their plans and also be a part of the plans that were going on with like Walk and Cat at the same time. And the moves that I made, intentionally or not, made them still think that they could use me as a vote. So it was, I feel like Kim made a lot of great moves and made a lot of less enemies, but Cass was the one making those moves. And yeah, I don't know.
How did you guys feel about the season overall, now that it's all said and done? Do you look back on it fondly? Are you disappointed in how it ended?
Dude, it was traumatizing. That's what I'd say.
What about you, Melinda?
It was fun until it wasn't. Yeah. If it would have been like, it could have been done like a week's less time, I could have won.
Are you satisfied with how it ended?
It was fun.
What about you, Wak?
Yeah, I had fun. I mean, for me, I always have more fun in Alias games versus OpenID just because I forget who was talking about. I can't really stand like the open baggage or like the baggage and the connection stuff. It feels less survivory to me. So I was just trying to have a good time. And by and large, I did. Like it was fun winning Ostranded, but that play style is like more stressful. Like I never, other than me not like doing the work I had to do at work, this was like the least stressful.
And it's interesting because like your biggest connection was someone that you had never met in Cataly.
It was in La Vida, Penner, who I'd never met either of them.
And I was with Russell, and I'd never met Russell before. So
yeah, I think that those were like some of the stronger bonds in the season. But at some point, Melinda, you had chosen I actually think that's why you ended up losing, is because you had started to choose your previous bonds versus the new ones that you had made in the game.
Sort of. I mean, like I just kind of felt like Eve was never going to turn on me. So I wanted to protect Eve at all costs. And I saw this pathway where if Cataly, myself, and Eve, Cataly could have just kept it a secret that Eve and I were really close. I thought between the three of us, we could have used our relationships with other people in the game to maneuver our way to the end. And I thought Cataly would be into that because I figured most people wouldn't want to take her to the end. And I was promising her that I did want to take her to the end because that would have been a fun final three for me with Cataly and Eve if I could have made it work. Because I think at that point, Eve wasn't considered a huge jury threat. So I thought my biggest competition would be Cataly. And I knew that I could beat Cataly in a final tribal council. I knew I could out-argue her in a final.
Why had you not considered... Obviously, you didn't know that Cataly and Wak were that close. Why did that never come across of like all of you guys working together?
It would have been great. I wish that we would have in retrospect. Cataly could have made that happen if she had pitched that idea to me.
I don't know why she was hiding Joaquin from us because I was working with Joaquin. It would have been super easy to link up with him. And at the time, she trusted me and trusted you. And I would have been down for that final three too. Would have given me a lot more wiggle room to actually do shit in this game.
Somehow Cataly and I miscommunicated because I thought I had communicated to Cataly that I was telling Penner and all of the Penner and Cass that I was targeting Russell and Joaquin because I had to. Like that was kind of my only choice at that point. But Cataly seemed to think that I was like doing it behind her back. So I think it's just where things went south. Me and Cataly didn't communicate everything super clearly, and if we had, I think things would have been a lot different. But
I think from what I saw at one point in the merge, we were really worried about, I mean, not worried, but we were assuming there would be an obvious orgy alliance come together between Cataly, Stephanie, Kim, and Tammy, I guess. And then, Cataly was very close to Stephanie, but then she started to become close to Joaquin and La Vida and Melinda. And I think at some point, Cataly was just too close to everyone, which benefited her, but I think she didn't take control of how it was going to go down enough.
She really didn't need to leak to Joaquin that I knew, because that just kind of blew things up. She had a pulse on everyone and everything at that point. So I don't know. I think it was just a mix of, there was a lot of paranoia in the air in that round. Just, constant rumors about everything, and everybody's doing it. Like Cass is doing it, Russell's doing it. Everybody's like going back and forth, and anything you say to someone gets back to someone else, and you have to tell the other person that you're that, oh no, I'm just saying that to them because I'm lying to them. So you don't actually know whether someone's lying to you or if they're lying to someone else about you. So it's a big mess of lies and rumors and you trust.
What was it like playing with Cassandra? Because from the outsider's point of view, and I didn't expect much from Cassandra. Like, I had seen her in Revenge do really well, but she's not someone who I was thinking was going to be a huge driver of the ship this season. What was it like playing with her? Because in confessionals, it was intense. Like, she had plans on top of plans and everything mapped out, and I'm sure a lot of those whispers came from her, and she was making up a lot of them, I'm sure. What was your vibe from her in the game? Was she someone that you were wanting to work with, or?
I could tell she was a really smart, good player. Like, I could just tell. So I wanted her out. I really would have wanted her to go out within the next few rounds if I had not blown my game out. I liked her a lot. She was clearly very smart. So I did not work with her really because I didn't trust her.
What about you, Walk?
I mean, I wanted her I saw her as a threat, but that wasn't like a bad thing. But no, she comes off, the way she writes is very, very rational. Like, she's never gonna flip on someone because she's pissed off. Like, she's constantly gonna try to do whatever is best for her game.
Yeah, are you in the shower right now? What's the water running?
I don't have any water. I don't have any water running.
Okay. It's just the audio. Sounds like there's...
I'm sitting on my couch right now.
Okay. Maybe the AC or something.
Maybe. But yeah, I don't know. She's a very rational player. I didn't know about all these crazy alliance chats, or charts or whatever.
I mean, she's clearly brilliant at the game. I have to give her that. I was not expecting her to get anywhere near the top, let alone very close to winning. I wouldn't have pegged her as someone that good. When you look at her confessionals and see her play style from an outsider's perspective, you're assuming everyone is in on it and that she's overplaying. But really, I guess somebody had a good idea that she was overplaying.
That's not entirely true. I was with her from the very beginning. I saw her control Fenrir. I didn't know if it was her and Cochrane or her and Penner. I thought that her and Penner weren't super connected, but I knew they played 4 seasons together. And I saw your recaps, but I wasn't sure if it was her or Cochrane, but I knew that she was in control of Fenrir and therefore control of anyone who moved on from Fenrir from that time. And she was impossible to kill. Believe me, she was at the top of my radar from the merge going on. In fact, Cassandra's the only person, maybe, I would have voted for Melinda, obviously, at the very end, if Melinda was there. I would have voted for Cataly if Cataly was there, but Cassandra's number 3 right after that. I would have voted Cassandra in a second if I was on the jury. If I'd ever been voted off in a stranded game, Cassandra would be close to the top of my list.
I think you can overplay, and I don't think you can overplay in a winter season. I was just prepared to pull out all the stops. I play predictably. That's why I really liked Cassandra's game, because she took risks, and obviously it didn't work out for her in the end, but she played a winner's game. If she would have won the Final 5 immunity, I guarantee she would have done whatever it took to win that Final 4 immunity, and she would have won the game. So I think overplaying, I don't think you could overplay in a winter season. I'm just surprised that that so many people took the under the radar kind of approach. I mean, obviously it worked. It was the winning approach in the end, but expected more.
I don't think if we had known about the Threats Alliance, I feel like the Threats Alliance would have overpowered us. But since we were aware of it, anyone who wasn't a part of it definitely jumped on the opposite side of that.
How would it have been if the Threats had just come out and said, all right, we got to get rid of Eve, we got to get rid of Stephanie, and we got to get rid of Russell right off the bat? How does your game change if you're singled out like that, Eve?
I wouldn't have gotten voted out. They could have tried, but they wouldn't have gotten me out. And that's being super realistic. I would have, the target would have moved to, if it was, so let's say Cataly and Joaquin are together. Joaquin has Russell, Cataly has Stephanie. They would have gotten out Kim. They would have went for Kim, and then they would have went for Cassandra. But let's say that happens. What Levita went out at the final 8. So this would have been the final 7 on, or is Levita still in the game? Because Levita was close with Cass at the time, just because of Cataly targeting her at that split vote. No, that double vote.
Well, the threats thing started to come together. I was trying to start to pull that together at final 12. That was like,
oh really?
Way yeah. Well, that was the whole thing, is that nobody actually knew about it because it was so unlikely at the time until Penner lost his shit.
No wonder there were new threats probably every single round. That's probably why you weren't able to get any like concrete ones there.
I don't know. I didn't play that well, but we can hit over the head how I didn't play it. But
no.
But like it had potential because like it stuck around for a couple of votes and nobody had any idea.
Well, I mean, obviously it had potential because it was the correct move for a lot of the jury. Like, let's be real. There's a reason why Stephanie, Russell, and Eve were in the final 3. The answer that I think a lot of the jury should have known, and I'm sure a lot of trust issues played in, but I think at the end of the day, the answer is if you're a big threat, you need to get rid of the non-threats or you're not going to be sitting in the final 3. That's just basic. And I think it got complicated when I think a lot of people weren't sure who the big threats were. And I think also there was a lot of mistrust about if that threat alliance was real or not,
Even if it wasn't real, it was a great narrative for people to capitalize on.
Well, and I think going into the season, I thought for sure that would happen just based off of the fact that we were doing this right as Winners at War is going on. And we just saw all of the huge threats go pre-merge. So I thought for sure some of the larger threats, and especially like given everyone that was in the merge, I mean, some of the bigger heavy hitters were all there. So to see them all just be like, nope, we're going to start taking each other out one by one, it's a little bit like, all right, interesting strategy. But I also think that that's, it does go back to Penner, I think. And we're going to talk to him and get his take on why that didn't follow through. He says it's because he didn't believe that the threats was a real alliance. I don't know. I still go back and forth, and I think about him and Cass talking about it in private because they were pretty snarky about, we're not going along with that. I think it was a little bit of him thinking he was not the main target and he could sneak through to the end again, which I don't think was ever going to happen. So I guess, are there any other things that y'all wanted to get out there that you heard in the podcasts or you wanted to talk about? Don't everybody jump up at the same time. How you enjoyed the game and if this is going to be it for you. So I guess we'll start with Melinda.
The game probably is going to be it for me. They took a huge toll on my mental health in this game, I should say. I couldn't balance it with my life. Maybe I'd play like a closed ID game again, because I don't know. I think I went into this because I had been unemployed for a couple of weeks and I was just bored as hell and wanted something to do and got into it. I was really okay, I could win this. And it kind of sort of just became really obsessive. And then I was like, okay, I do not like the person I'm turning into. So I think I'd probably play a closed D game because I wouldn't have to put in as much effort and I wouldn't have the emotional attachments to people. I knew real people that I really like a lot and I would feel like an asshole voting half of these people out, even though I know it's a game of Survivor and it's a game.
Well, I think also this season in particular had a little bit of a reputation attached to it because you're playing with the best on paper, right? And also your reputation as a winner is kind of on the line when you're playing up against the best. So I'm sure there was a little added pressure there.
But then it's okay, really, who really gives a fuck about your reputation as a winner? I die, really gonna care? I was the best stranded player. Not really.
Yes, stranded is life, Melinda. No, I mean, that's fair. I don't know. I feel like there were people who were in this to either prove themselves or they wanted to be the one that got out some of the bigger players.
I had to make some really big moves and an unconventional game. Obviously that didn't work out too well, but it was fun. I'd probably play again, not in an open D format.
Yeah. What about you, Joaquin? Did you enjoy the game and would you play again?
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed this in a different way because it was it was more of like a happy to be here kind of thing. Not that like I was gonna like roll over, but like it was more cool to just like the point of this game to me, it didn't necessarily feel like finding out who's the ultimate game player or something like that. Like to me, it was let's get all these like quote unquote big names together and see what happens. And so it was cool to be mentioned under like one of those names. I only do like one of these tops a year just because it takes too much time out of me. Basically, a lot of people who played the game, who host their own games, have asked me to play their games, which I guess shows how fun I am. No, I'll probably try something else at some point, but I'm mostly content just like co-hosting. Co-hosting's fun because you get all the fun of it without the crazy schedule shit.
Yeah, agreed. Eve, how did you enjoy the season and would you play again?
I enjoyed this season. It was extremely frustrating all the way through. I wish things had gone differently. I definitely would play again. I said I was retired, but that was mostly just for the jury because I was trying to do several, inconspicuous, subconscious things like throwing everything at the wall to win. But I didn't. They didn't have anything to prove, and what do you have to prove on Stranded? But some of us went in undefeated and wanted to continue that streak. And the fact that I got so close to doing it 2 times and being undefeated just gives me a drive to probably come back and play another time if the timing was right. I would absolutely play again. And now knowing what people are looking for in a player and what people are looking for in a winner 7 years later, I know that I could play a winning game the next time.
You would love doing like a Stranded Alias All-Stars. It would, like, honestly, that was so much fun. You would, because
that sounds amazing.
There's not going to be the baggage or anything like that. You just go out and do it. I made up like a whole fake persona for myself. It was a lot of fun.
What was your fake persona? Was it fun?
Yeah, I mean, well, it's not that different. I just like
I was gonna say, rich douchebag. I mean, that's
I said I was like an investment banker, like, but I like made up like a name for like a wife and a dog and shit. It was very funny in my opinion.
What are their names? What were their names? Do you remember?
Oh fuck! I remember the dog was a golden doodle.
That's funny.
That's incredible.
That was an all-star season. I didn't even know.
Yes. I mean, you were going second. So.
Yeah, dude. I mean,
it was a surprise one.
So, yeah, like something to prove. That season, it was like I won against how many other winners from that cast? So I didn't feel like I had anything else to prove.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think for me, of course, it was awesome, like having a winter season because I didn't think that was something we were going to get to do. So I think like that was cool enough that I didn't care how it ended up. Of course, I would have loved like some super exciting winner, but ultimately, like, who gives a shit? Like, I think Stephanie is a great 2-time winner, and I think appropriate. So really, it was just fun having everyone together, like seeing Lavita and Melinda align and people from 12 years apart getting to meet, and I think also seeing, in my opinion, the best strategists that I've ever seen play all kind of duke it out was cool and also exhausting. Like, I can't imagine what playing was like because watching was exhausting, trying to keep up with all the different lies and alliances and strategies. It was a lot of fun. I think it was a fun 3 weeks. It was really cool seeing everyone back. And I got to I didn't know Eve all that well because she had only played the one time. And there were a lot of players like that. So it was cool getting everybody back together, I think, for me.
Yeah, I mean, how'd you like the season? I'm sure it's impossible to separating that it was just everyone there versus like how it all played out. Like, was it entertaining because of the people who were there, or was like the actual events of the season entertaining?
I think both. I really think it's. I mean, it's not like my favorite season. It wasn't like everything was a complete knockout of the park. I just think it was such a special experience, and it was consistently entertaining and exciting throughout, even when it was predictable. I think it was still exciting to see. And, I think like the stuff with Russell, sure, it was a boring march to the end that was predictable, but it was so controversial that it was fun to watch. And it was fun to see like the final 3 kind of argue the point for or against it. And like you said, I mean, I think just getting to see like you and Cataly come together and just call people out of tribal councils, like that was fucking awesome. So, for like a fan of the people to have them all back and playing for me again felt like an honor that they would all come back to play for me because, like Cataly doesn't need to play Stranded again. She's played before. She has her own series and, I mean, Melinda's got a life of her own out of this. And, I mean, we're all older and we all have shit going on. So to get everybody back again was cool. I don't know if that answered your question at all, but
it did.
Yeah, I think it's not going to go down as like our best season, but I think it'll have like a special memory of, wow, we actually got everyone together. I think overall it was a very positive experience for everyone. So I can't ask for more than that,
Can't ask.
Especially because like Revenge was not a positive experience for all of like the legendary players. For you guys who don't know, that was like the season that Cassandra won that had like it was a really good cast of like all of our big legends. And it just ended on such a sour note, like for a lot of people, that this was kind of a redemption for that, Yeah, it just, like some decisions I made weren't great. Like the twists weren't well received. I don't think anyone had like fun playing that season. It was really dark. Like people quit and it was just not good. So
yeah. I mean, I'll talk to that because I dedicated a lot of my life at that time to hosting that season. So the main twist of the season, entertainment wise, fantastic. I could see why everybody hated it. So it was called like the Revenge Twist, and basically like every night, every tribe would go to tribal and they would vote someone out, but we would only reveal who won immunity after they voted someone out. And the two tribes that won immunity just had people like switch tribes. Cool. And so like everybody was constantly voting people out, even though they were not actually getting voted out. Which for people, like, it's hard emotionally on the players. And then also like for people like there were a lot of people not on the US time zone that season. Like there was Penner and Brenda were in Ireland, Rory's in Indonesia or something. Like there were a lot of people who would have to get up at like crazy hours, and they had to do that every fucking night to go to tribal, and it drove them all insane. There was also, I mean, that twist. There's the whole Trashly thing. And
that was the real. And then like it didn't help that Sophie Tracy, as you guys probably know her, like went out pre-merge and just trashed the season all over the place. It just didn't have a great. Like Cataly went home really early for being an old school player. It just wasn't a great. Nobody went out of that season thinking like that was a great experience. And even though it was like a good season, I guess technically.
No, I don't know. I didn't even think it was that great of a season. Just because the problem was that talk about something to prove. It was like all that season was like half great game players, half just people that were super entertaining.
Yeah.
But all the people who were super entertaining legends wanted to prove that they were also good game players. So they all toned down all of their entertaining parts to try to be game bots. And so basically you just had a season of like all game bots.
Yeah. So, and I hated that so many people came out of that season, like not feeling good about Stranded. They didn't like the twist. So they thought that, it wasn't a good game setup. I made a bad call, admittedly, in the game with Trashly. Like that wasn't a good move. So, it's left a bad taste in everyone's mouth. And it was like one of our bigger seasons. It was the 30th season. And we had like all of our best players. So I've always been wanting to redeem that season, especially for someone like Cataly or Penner or Cassandra, a lot of those guys. I hated that everyone ended on that note, So for them to all come back and really enjoy this season and have fun playing and getting to know all the people, that meant a lot for me,
This cast was awesome. This is like the highest tier players I've ever played with. I think I said that in a confessional, but it was usually can control things much easier. Couldn't do that in winner's game. It was like, that was interesting.
Oh, I think, and also like if you're looking at the cast, they all have, if you ask any community of gaming, there is at least one player on this season that everyone knows about and respects highly as a great player. So really, I think, there are probably other games that have done it, but from what I've seen, this is the best strategic group of people that I've seen play. And they proved that. It was an intense strategic game. So that's what I'm going to remember this season as, is like the height of strategy. I think that's definitely going to be true. I can't imagine a cast coming out and playing harder than that.
When does Isolated start?
Isolated is supposed to start in 10 days. I think we're on schedule for that. We have like 50 apps, and we haven't even casted anything. It was just people have been sending in apps all this time. So we got some good ones. I'm excited. We have like a Harvard MBA student, a lot of interesting people. So
those people have like unusual backgrounds. There's like I know Reem had some friends apply. I've only read through like 10 of them, but it looks decent.
I think a part of that is like more women are into gaming now, or just online in general, than what they were 20 years ago. It used to be like a running joke of it only being young gay guys playing orgies.
Still was probably gay young in this winners game, although I guess not the new season.
Yeah, but the new seasons are like the last one we just did, a real men versus women, and the women were like mostly older, like they had a MILF alliance, and
wow.
And there was like a 57-year-old woman who found an idol and played it correctly, and it was awesome. So I think that's exciting. Like all the new seasons are really fun to lurk because the casts really resemble a reality show in the diversity, and it's cool to get to know those people.
You've also done a great job recently with like upping the lurking game.
Well, I think that's because people are just more interested, and I think like we give people a lot more access now, but I think also like it's more community run, and people are all involved in casting, and they're podcasting, and it's just a cool experience to lurk now. Much more fun than it used to be.
Yeah, if y'all have like Andy and Eve, if you have like any recommendations on like hashtag content creation or like things that would make things fun to lurk, we're all ears.
When did you start paying winners?
That's super cool.
Season
Revenge.
I didn't pay Cassandra for Revenge.
Were you supposed to though?
We had talked about it, and then we decided not to. And then I think like immediately after that, the next season we started doing it. And then she was like, "Where's my?"
Oh, that's something you haven't talked about in podcasts yet. Is how like almost everyone was talking about residual checks throughout the season.
Yeah, I was like, I don't make any money off this, so
the Sia money is the Julie money. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe if we like start selling merch, we'll get up a little prize fund together.
If you make an Eve T-shirt, even if oh god, I would buy that shit in a second. But that's just me. You would get one sell, but that's
no. We'll look into all that. I mean, everybody's been talking about like wanting buffs, so that's something we could do easily.
Oh, sweet, yeah.
Especially now that everybody has to wear a fucking face mask everywhere. We could double for that.
Can I make a request?
Sure.
My favorite color is purple, and legit on both seasons, I was on every single tribe except for the purple tribe. So if you ever do bring me back, put me on a purple tribe.
All right, I'll consider it.
Thank you.
Consider it done. We're trying to do everything. Everybody's like, play more games. We're trying to do more rematch and stupid shit to keep people occupied.
Have a stranded reunion once the Iris is gone.
How would you do that?
I'd fly down to New Orleans and have a big party.
Yeah, they were joking about like the stranded cruise. I think I don't know if I'd want to meet a lot of people from. That's a lot of crazy people.
That would just turn into a gay orgy.
That's true.
Oh shit!
Especially with Flick around.
Also, Eve, we can hear you grinding.
You can?
Yeah.
Oh, never mind. Did you ever do a live game?
Yeah, I'll never say never. I'm trying to figure out like where I go with this, because honestly, like Joaquin can tell you, because he's been here through the transition from old school to new school, right? So like I'd say about 3 years ago, Discord started. And before that, I know a lot of you old school guys know what I'm talking about, but like no one would ever FaceTime or share pictures or like voice chat or anything. It was very, I mean, of course, Eve and Melinda met up, but there was always like a pretty hard line across the board of like, this is your alias and you don't reveal any personal information about yourself. I think that's changed dramatically in the past 3 years where, we started Discord, but also like people in general, I think just from our lives becoming more online based, like we date online, we have social media and everything else. I think people are just much more open to that. And particularly like a lot of the younger kids on Discord, 18 to 23, are really not shy at all about voice chatting or anything. Like they're all online, which is like a huge difference from our generation than to theirs.
Yeah.
It's just different. So I was always super weird about it. And then I think around Turks and Caicos, when really Lucy brought a lot, Lucy, of course, the winner who passed away that we've dedicated the season to, really brought a lot of voice chatting. And, he's really open about like, add me on Facebook. Hey, here's my number. Just text me. I'm tired of talking on the I can't do Discord or whatever. And he was just really cool. So that really made everyone like, he kind of bridged the gap. And he came from a Facebook gaming community, which was weird to me, but I don't know. It was just, he made that like super normal. So
Eve. So Lucy also is in Chicago, and he still had he still had my favorite thing, which was he described Wicker Park to me as, quote, half frat party, half lesbian arts and crafts festival. And that's like the most accurate thing I've ever heard.
It's incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, Lucy was awesome. And he was like, he really brought community into like a super personal place of like everyone really knowing, becoming Facebook friends and just talking or voice chatting, or, we all did like Snapchat together. And so from like there, it really jumped to a more personal experience where people really got to become friends with people. And I've never had that online. For me, it was super weird. Like I was always thinking like, I don't want to get to know these freaks. Like, God, no, somebody will murder me, or I'll say something stupid and get exposed or whatever, canceled. But I can say like getting to know Lucy, and that whole experience was like super rewarding because we got to help Lucy through like really tough shit. And it was also around the time where I brought my wife into the community, and she became super close friends with Lucy. So, that whole experience was like, it kind of made the whole online gaming thing worth it because it changed it to become much more personal. And like, I felt like I was actually helping people in a more profound way than wasting my time playing online Survivor. You know what I mean? So for me, like when I got married, I was just going to call it quits. But then I was like, well, people still want to do it, but I'm not going to do it without my wife, because that's just, I'm not going to spend hours of my life without her involved at all. So I made her play a game. I forced her to play one, which she like didn't love, but she did love getting to meet all the people. So long story short, I think for me, getting to know people on a personal level has increased the experience and made it worthwhile to a point where there's no going back. So to answer your question, I have been approached by people to start like a sequester type game and kind of take it to the next level. I'm certainly open to that. I think if we do it, it would not be like the next Stranded season. I think I would just start a new series.
You mean sequestered?
Would it?
So sequester is the game that one of the Big Brother alumni started, and it's a online reality game, but it's for like a cash prize. I think the cash prize is like substantial, maybe 10 grand or more. It could be 100 grand.
Oh no. Mm-mm.
And it's all video. It's recorded. It's pretty much like its own reality show at this point, and it's gotten a huge following. I think it's sponsored. They just did one for the quarantine where they had all former Big Brother players play a season of Sequester. They had it. I know you can stream it through their website.
You have to pay to do it.
Yeah, I think it's like a subscription deal. Like I'd like to get an app made. I'd like to have a prize fund.
And people probably cheat to win money.
Yeah, so it's a double-edged sword. Yeah, I'm sure you have to have like rules and regulations if it becomes like a real thing. So I don't know, maybe at some point we'll just have like a Patreon or buffs that people can buy that all that would just go back to funding the prize fund.
And I'd buy something.
An app or something. Yeah, I think a lot of people are interested in buffs. I think that's the easy one because
I'd buy 3.
That's kind of what I'm going for. I think that would be an easy deal to where like it's not a whole lot of money for everybody. Everybody gets something tangible, and everything just goes back into Stranded. I think too, like I'd like to have buffs for shit like a fan favorite one that I can just send to people that win stuff, or like a winner's edition and stuff like that.
If you urinate on a podcast, can people hear you?
Mute yourself.
Okay. Good to know. Asking for a friend.
I've mentioned this in the chat before, but I think it'd be so cool to do like a Zoom Fiverr or Big Brother type of game, even if it was just like a mini game on the platform with like they have like breakout rooms and stuff like that. That'd be cool.
Yeah, that's kind of what Sequester is, and it's all recorded, so like they edit it together, and that's certainly something I can do. So like I think that we will be doing that in the near future. Like that's totally on the radar,
And even just the chat is such a different way of playing than like when I played and it's all messages, like chat function makes it a completely different type of game.
I always think, I think the reason Stranded has grown is because like we've kind of changed with the times. Like, everybody wants to do Discord games now, but they suck. So like, is there a way to bring the old school long form games to Discord. I think there is, but it needs to be like a little more careful than how they're doing it now. I think.
Yeah. Oh, this was so the IM thing was so Russell and I argued about this the other day about the like whether or not we prefer IMs or private messages. Russell prefers private messages, but he's been doing it for a while. I personally like the IMs better just because I think it's more realistic.
Yeah.
Okay. We can hear you peeing, Eve.
That's just the water. That's just the water. But
yeah.
wait for it. Wait, quiet. There we go.
Nice. Anyway, that's going in the podcast, by the way.
Anyway, I'm of the opinion it's more realistic because when you're on the island Survivor, you can only be talking to X number of people at a time, right? Like you can only be having an individual conversation with one person at a time. Where the IMs kind of simulate that because like when you're doing it all live, like you will take longer to get back to people who you are not prioritizing. Like the PMs, you could be like, quote, the most social person with everybody if you're just writing like tons of non-live paragraphs. That doesn't feel as realistic.
Yeah, that's true.
That's how it used to be with AIM back in the old days. People would just talk on AIM. And so this is like, an improvement.
And we spent a lot of time like sourcing one that we could all lurk because that's the big thing is like we need to be able to see what's being said, not only for our entertainment, but also to make sure nobody's cheating. So I think a lot of things.
Yeah, that's a huge problem with Discord games. Everybody's fucking cheating.
Yeah, of course. It's the Wild West.
Good to know.
I think, the cool part about the chats, like I always was concerned that maybe it would be harder. It would make it harder for a blindside to happen because communication would be so open that, it's not like in the private messages where it was hard to get a vote together. What I found was because people had so much freedom with chats is that they could put a vote together within 5 minutes. So like the first season we did it, instantly everyone went fucking nuts. And like leading up to a vote was like the most exciting thing I've ever seen versus like the old school where if it was 10 minutes before tribal council, there was no time to put together a blindside because you had to PM everybody and it would just take too long for everyone to confirm. If everyone's instant messaging, they could tell you yes or no within a second, so that made it a lot more exciting. And what I thought would happen was that if it was so easy to communicate, it would be easier to get a vote together. And what I think happens is because it's so easy to communicate, everyone just goes fucking apeshit right before. And ever since we've done it, it's been like this mad scramble before tribal council, So different, but I think better.
It'd be cool if you were able to see who was having a conversation with who.
So you've never lurked, but we do have that ability.
You guys, you mean like if the players could see?
Oh, if the players do. Yeah.
I don't know. You can't like see that on the show. Like if you're on an island and two people go run off in the woods, like you have no idea.
It'd be cool if like there's a way you could get those chat rooms to like show. I don't know. Yeah, it's like you have to chat. If you had to talk in a chat room, like you couldn't talk one-on-one. You had to like talk in a certain area. Then the chat like doesn't stay. I'm just brainstorming. Chat like doesn't stay, so other people can't see it later on. Like it erases when you leave the area.
There is that feature for chat rooms.
I made that advantage chat room. The potato.
Yeah.
Ooh, Melinda. Was New Munin? Did you guys actually talk after the merge in that chat room, or was that just a rumor?
I don't think so. I think it kind of died.
Okay.
Yeah, the hard part about the chat rooms is like you can always tell who's in them, which I guess it'd be hard to think about. Like, is that?
How can you tell who's in them because of who's online, or?
Yeah, because it tells you how many people who are in that chat room are online, and so if like there's 3 people online and it says 2 people who are online are in this room and you're not in it, that means that the other 2 people online are.
What I figured out,
maybe there's a way to fix that.
You can just go in one at a time and say your message and then leave and like tell the other person privately, okay, you can go, like you could kind of do it that way where you only have one person in at a time, but still having a conversation.
Damn, you guys gamed the system.
Tricks I had, and then the other one was using the memory wall to like talk.
I bet that's a setting that I just have turned on that I could probably turn off,
Wait, what were you going to do with the memory wall?
Rather than having to whisper a target, you just create a code with the memory wall.
You did that. That's how you told me that Russell was the vote. Yeah.
Vita, that Russell was the vote too.
Fun. Like number 10 or 11. I remember that. I used the memory wall. One of the reasons why I put it off Kim was because it would have made me at the very beginning, and so subconsciously people would have wanted me to be the winner. But that was not
I
intelligent.
finally caved and did a memory wall this season.
That's cool.
It was awesome to watch.
What else do we do? I don't know. We're always changing. I feel like if I'm not always doing something new, I'm gonna fall behind. You know, there's always something new and better to do, and I get to learn new shit. I mean, that's part of my justification for doing Stranded is like I get to have a creative outlet for graphics and also get to learn a little bit of programming for each season.
It was incredible to see. It's like going to New York City for the first time and seeing those big buildings. Like just going into a Survivor game with its own instant messaging system. It was beyond incredible. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I kind of felt bad. Like I had to throw that season together in a week. So it's like really
our season.
Yeah, I was like really cutting it close.
Wow.
Because Melinda actually came to me like I want to say a week before it started and said like, "Hey, when are you gonna do all winners?" And I was like, "All right, I'll ask and see if people can do it." And so when it happened, I was like, "Well, we got to do it soon." So I had not planned on doing this season. I really threw it together last minute. Like came up with the theme, the graphics, everything.
Can you, at some point, it doesn't have to be this podcast, but at some point in the future, just like talk about your interactions with the cast and asking them and like maybe the order you asked them in and like what they all said. Everyone was hard to get like grab or anything.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably a short answer. Like the only person I asked everyone and of the people that responded. So there were a lot of people who like probably didn't see my message, or if they did, they just didn't.
Yeah. Bavu's still around, or
who's that?
Bavu? Is that the name of the person who won the first?
No, he hadn't been back since since All Stars. He ghosted and has not been on anywhere. So, and of course, I tried to reach out to him.
Cool.
I sent messages. It would have been really cool. I sent messages everywhere, hoping he would just miraculously see it. No dice. Of the people that responded, only one turned me down, and that was Purple Kelly, who's played by Snoopy or Snoops on Orgy, who actually was like,
I know Snoopy.
Yeah, was like, I would totally do it, but I'm in politics, and like right now I'm crazy busy with all the COVID shit. So other than that, I think someone said like I should have contacted Gate God, but I didn't know he changed his name on Orgy, so I just used an old email that he probably didn't see. Things like that. But everyone else who saw it agreed to do it. So I had almost no issues with casting. Cataly was a little reluctant because she was starting a game. So I want to say she was like the last of the people that I was talking to fully agree. But everyone else said yes. And it really, like, I think the people that I was most surprised by were Henner Cochran, who is currently like on duty, like, but he was stationed in Japan. Like, I did not think he would do it, but I guess he's stuck there. So had a lot of free time.
I wish he had lasted a little bit longer. It was great to talk to.
Yeah, Cochran's always a star. Melinda, I didn't think would do it, but of course she was the one who came to me and said, "Let's do it." Courtney and Alex, I had no inkling would do it. Like, I found his old Survivor Sucks and messaged him on there thinking nothing would happen, but he got back to me. I guess it's linked to his email. So that was a bit of a surprise. Yeah, when I set out to do it, I really thought it was going to be 13 winners. Wow. And we would just do like a mini 2-week deal, which is what we had planned. And then like 22 yeses later, it was really 23. And then Michelle dropped out because I think she had coronavirus. She said it was just like bronchitis, but it sounded like coronavirus to me.
Oh, shit.
She dropped out like the Monday before the game started. So really I had like 23 winners, and I was like, yeah, I mean, I'll take anybody who wants to play, we'll make it.
Did you always want to include like Ziggy, Levita, and Russell, people who won isolated?
Yes. Well, Ziggy had won Stranded.
Oh, sorry.
And Levita was the only one who hadn't played Stranded before. But I always wanted to include her because she's brilliant. Like, it would have felt cheap if she wasn't there. So I had made a conscious decision of like, let's include isolated people. And Russell's played so many seasons that it felt okay,
Mm-hmm. Why not as Chris? Just because he won as Russell, even though like Joaquin won as someone else too?
Yeah, basically. I
Gotcha. I know you answered that earlier.
Well, I just wanted everyone. I thought it would be confusing because everyone knows on the Discord, everyone knows people as like their original character, except for Russell for some reason. So I kind of just said, let's let everyone play as like who they're most known as.
So as Andy,
in quotation marks, known as.
Yeah, because I just think like your most notable person, so it was less confusing. That's all I was thinking. Yeah. It's like people know Ziggy as Ziggy, not as Sebastian. So like I think it would be weird for people in the game. I think everyone would have just been calling him Ziggy, even though his name would have been Sebastian. So I just try to limit confusion.
Ooh, We're thinking everything.
That's really my only. That's the only answer. I just thought it would be easier, less confusing for people. Like before this, I didn't even consider doing an open ID game again because like I had started Australian Stranded and that went really well. So I was like, we'll just do that forever. If we're doing All Stars. But I do think there's like a good portion of people that want to play as their old reps too. So I don't know, kind of play it by ear. I really found when I started Stranded, I had wanted to stick like to a rigid 3 games and then an All Stars kind of format. And I think once Revenge happened where I had like my ultimate All Stars game, after that I was like, fuck it, I'll do whatever the hell I want. Like if I want a 28 person season, I'll do that. If I want 10 people in a season, I'll do that. It's just really whatever I felt like doing is what I was going to do. But I think for me, the most enjoyable part is finding awesome new people to get to know and to bring into the community. Because I think that's the most rewarding part. I learned that with Lucy's, like making good friendships or connections online, I think is the coolest part of this whole thing. So if I could do more of that, and really doing All Stars for me is just about bringing old people back or introducing them to some of the new people. Like that's what interests me. So that's really what I'm going to be focused on going forward, I think.
Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah, okay. It had to have been a weird experience for you guys, like old schoolers coming into a different style of game, I guess. I guess it's the old style, but just with new people. Or not even new people.
It felt almost more old school than new school.
Yeah.
Even though I don't really understand what new school is.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like most of the cast was old school, so.
That worked out.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the only difference now is that people are really personal. Like, really, there's no barrier between online games and, like, personal friendships. Like,
uncomfortably so. Yeah. I feel like I was in no way, like even in the final tribal council, I think a lot of people who did say that they were interested in swaying the vote with me only said that because they liked my video, which was intensely personal, very strategic, but clearly it worked. And that's a great note going forward.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, I don't know. I think maybe we'll test it out with like an all-star game or something where, maybe we do the video with people who are more comfortable with one another. Because
I don't even think in an all-star, like I feel like all the like cool production ideas we've had have always started out as like some small experiment. So I almost feel like a mini or something would be like the first couple of podcasts we did were like at the end of one of the isolated seasons. Like we never just like went all in on a Stranded season. Like I feel like either a mini or like a rematch or I don't know, something like really small to just like work out the kinks.
Yeah, totally.
Can I make a note on the whispers and how I think it's amazing? You could have easily
the whispers were not planned, obviously.
No,
I had to like scramble to find a solution for it. I'll probably find something better given more time. But we had talked about it before since it's become a thing on Survivor, but it was not something that I was going to do for this season until people were like, "Hey, can I whisper to someone?" And then I was like, "All right," like
Penner to me and Tammy.
Yeah, I was like, let's see if this works, and if it sucks, we'll just not do it again.
Oh, it didn't suck.
No, I think what it does is it makes a tribal council where it would otherwise just be people giving bullshit fluff answers to be a little bit more exciting. I don't know if I'll do it all the way on a new player season. I don't know. We'll have to play around with it.
Do it because so you could have totally been like, you could have kept the same system you had before where people just like talked about it and then they wanted to do it, and then they did the confessionals, or you could have just like opened up the chat system and been like, okay, well, Tammy whispered to Penner. But the thing is, you made it a part of the system. So if someone whispers to someone, just like in real life, someone could overhear that whisper because they messed up. Like Russell and I definitely posted incorrectly the first time we ever whispered.
Oh, can you imagine the noobs?
Fuck up someone's game.
Really cool element added to it.
You liked it?
Yeah, I think it was great.
Yeah, I think from a viewing perspective, it was awesome. Like, it totally made something that would have normally been boring super exciting. And I think a large part of that is that, because my big fear was like, if a blindside was happening, a lot of times the craziness leading up to tribal and then having the communications suddenly shut off is the most exciting part. So like my fear would be, if they have the opportunity to tell everyone what the vote should be, does that kill off a lot of the mystery behind like who's getting voted off? If everyone's just like, no, this is the vote.
Had me think of that code system, which I'm like, that was ingenious, that code system.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's an easier way to do it that I can program.
Yeah, I would say, the two big I think easy win improvements would be easier for the contestants to whisper so you're not constantly looking up the codes, because that was kind of annoying. And then making it so that like hosts and lurkers can see what's being whispered without having to do that in the chat.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm sure we'll find workarounds. That, of course, was like a total band-aid to fix the the new problem of having to allow people to whisper. But I do think I think it's the way Survivor's going, and I think there's a reason for that. I think it's just more exciting.
It changed the game too. Like when people were about to vote, they knew that they could whisper to somebody else. And almost, I feel like it was the Tammy vote where no one spoke, or was it the Penner vote that no one spoke? It was Penner. It was almost more terrifying that no one was whispering. It was intense.
Yeah, and then it became a little sub part of the game too. Of like, there was a point where people were like, if anyone whispers, they're not getting my jury vote, or like it was almost part strategy of like, if you didn't want to whisper, or if you were going to tell people not to whisper so that they couldn't change a vote. I think yes, on paper you would think it would kill off drama, but I think because anything is just a new element to a game, they'll find a way to make it exciting.
Yeah. The first time ever, like I threw a whisper away, and I think other people did the same thing. Like to Levita, I just said, who's someone I had spoken to 3 times. I said, "You're pretty." And that's it.
I think a majority of the early whispers were that, but then I think other people thought that they were actual game moves, so that probably made them a little bit more paranoid.
That's like so fun.
No, I think whispers will definitely be back. I don't know if maybe I have to I don't know. We'll see. Maybe if it's a free for all, or maybe there's like a limit to it or something. I don't know. We'll play around with it. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and end this podcast because we could talk forever, but we've been talking a long time. I want to thank you guys again for coming back and for podcasting with us. I hope you guys stick around.
Oh shit, it's been 2 fucking hours.
Yeah, I'm sure Julie's like, what the fuck?
You can blame it on me. It's fine.
All right. Well, thank you guys again. Hope to talk to you soon about other stuff. Hopefully about the new people that we're finding, because I think they're going to be fun to watch. And we'll go from there. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.